Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to my YouTube channel, and this is Open Mic. This is where a whole bunch of us film fans get together around a virtual water cooler and talk about all the topics off the top of our head pertaining to our favorite things in the world, movies, movie news, some television, a little bit of sports, whatever it is you guys want to talk about. My name, of course, is John Campea. Now, on the John Campea Show in the mornings, we spend a little bit of time taking some live questions, but here on Open Mic, that's all we do, is just all live open questions. So, hey, this is my first open mic in a while. It's been a while since I've done open mic because, of course, I had the oral surgery done, giant piece of metal screwed up into my skull, all that kind of stuff. Still not 100% recovered. I still got some swelling in my mouth. You can obviously tell it's not nearly as bad as it was because I was talking like this, but now I'm able to actually speak a little bit better. So, open mic is back. Thanks, you guys, for being here and joining me. So, without wasting any time, let's dive right into it. And the first live question we have today comes to us from Nathan Oswald, who writes, what's the difference between homage and ripoff? Well, that comes up. I've heard that come up a bunch of times, and me and my friends have discussed that. When is the line between paying homage, paying respect, writing a love letter to another movie or another series of movies, and when does it cross line to becoming a ripoff? Let's use the current movie by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's Skyscraper. I think Skyscraper is a good example of the differences between an homage and a ripoff. I think the line can be defined in a couple of ways. Number one is intent. I think you can clearly tell when a filmmaker is just stealing from another movie and when a filmmaker is kind of using a few motifs from another movie kind of as a way of paying respect to that movie and trying to incorporate that into their own. You can tell because there's an intent. In the case of like Skyscraper, Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson came out long before the movie ever did and said, this movie is kind of like a love letter to Die Hard, but he also mentioned a couple of other movies as well. And they went in that way. The second big thing to me beyond intent is the amount of material that is directly taken. So let's look at Skyscraper for a second. In Skyscraper, you've got this initial premise. It's an action scene in a building, guy's trying to get his family. Okay, that's like Die Hard. But once you watch Skyscraper, once you see the movie, you realize this is a fundamentally different movie than Die Hard was. Like, this is on a very material level, a very different movie from Die Hard. As opposed to, say, the first Fast and Furious movie, which is a blatant ripoff of Point Break, the Keanu Reeves, Patrick Swayze movie. It is a plot point by plot point, narrative point by narrative point, direct ripoff of Point Break. I could sit here and describe Fast and the Furious to you in a 3-minute structure, and you wouldn't know if I was describing Point Break or describing Fast and the Furious. Fast and the Furious takes so much materially from Point Break. It's not homage, it's a ripoff. Whereas you look at something like Skyscraper, yes, there's a definite similarity in a couple of points, but beyond that, once you get into the movie, it's clearly a materially different film from what Die Hard was. So I think how much material is directly translated into the film, as well as what the intent was going into the film, I think those are the two lines. So you look at Point Break to Fast and Furious, clearly ripoff. You look at, Die Hard to Skyscraper, although Skyscraper didn't work out to be all that good, but whatever. Die Hard to Skyscraper, clearly a little bit of homage without being an actual ripoff. So it's a fine line, and each case, I believe, is up for debate. But those are some of the distinctions that I look for when trying to decide if something is either a ripoff or just paying some homage. Degoto1 writes, I'm looking forward to Christopher Robin, but the thing that worries me is that I've heard the embargo doesn't lift to the day of release. Is that true? No, I can tell you that it's not true. The embargo, I believe, lifts on Wednesday, which is a couple of days before release. So on the one hand, don't worry about it. The review embargo does not lift the day of. However, it's still pretty damn close to when the movie's coming out. It's actually closer to when the movie comes out than we're used to seeing Disney lift review embargoes. And I'll tell you what, I'll be honest with you. The other thing that concerned me a bit is that I'm going to the screening on Wednesday morning. I'm not even seeing a screening of it until 2 days before the movie opens. That's a little concerning. Because normally what Disney does, is when Disney knows they've got a winner on their hands, they will show it to critics early and let positive buzz and word of mouth go, 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 go. Now, so to me, even though it's a couple of days before the movie comes out, I will admit it's a little bit of a red flag. It is a little bit of a red flag. It doesn't mean the movie's not great. I'm just saying, when you look at Disney's normal mode of operating, that they will normally show these movies a week or two in advance and then normally lift the review embargo 5 days, 6 days, 7 days before the movie comes out, sometimes even earlier than that. And now you look at a Christopher Robin and say, they're not screening it till 2 days before it opens, and that's when the review embargo lifts, just like 2 days before it opens. I mean, and really, if you want to look at it, the movie really opens on Thursday night. So really, you're looking at just a little over a day. The embargo is lifting just a little over a day from the movie comes out. Now, I'm basing that on the fact that in my invitation to go see Christopher Robin, normally if there's an embargo, they put the embargo right in the invitation. There is no embargo listed in the invitation, so I'm assuming that once I see it on Wednesday, that's when we're free to post the review. So, number one, I've heard no indication that the review embargo is actually the day of. But number two, I am still a little bit concerned because this seems to break with normal Disney operating procedure. We're just going to have to wait and see. I've been dying to see this film. I am excited for this film. It is one of my most hotly anticipated films of the year right now. Cannot wait to see it. But I am scratching my head a little bit as to why they're showing it to us so late and lifting review embargo so late. We're going to have to wait and see how that turns out. Vrinder Singh writes, just wanted to say thanks for everything you do. Well, thank you for that, Vrinder. Even though we've never met, it feels like you are family. Oh, thanks so much, man. Listening to you helps me get through my day much easier, especially as I am struggling with health issues at the moment. Well, thank you so much for that, Vrinder. You know what? It's funny. I've gotten a lot of emails and messages from people over the years who have written that, hey, you know, how to get a medical procedure done. I've been laid up in the hospital for a while, blah, 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 and really getting through that. That is one of the really great things about the film fan community on podcast, on YouTube, on whatever. Because I find, honestly, when I'm like laid up, which like I was this past week because of the surgery and everything, I find that's when I really rely heavily on listening to my favorite podcasts, watching my favorite shows, getting caught up in some of my favorite YouTube videos, blah, blah, blah. And it's those kinds of things that really help get me through. So it's awesome that not just me, but the rest of the fans here and the rest of the film fans here can be here and be a part of that for you, Verinder. So thank you for sharing that, man. I really appreciate that. And I hope your recovery goes as well as mine. My recovery's been going pretty well. All right. Cameron Belgrade writes, thoughts on broadcast news. Oh, love broadcast news. William Hurt, Holly Hunter. Oh, damn, I don't want to look it up. I absolutely refuse to look it up. Why am I freezing on the name of the other guy? The other guy, you know, one of the most classic scenes ever. Oh, why am I forgetting his name? Oh, this is killing me. Now I gotta look it up. Why am I forgetting this guy's name? It's Albert Brooks. How did I freeze on Albert Brooks' name? Albert Brooks. There's a scene in broadcast news when Albert, it reminds me, it's really applicable today with people doing YouTube. Albert Brooks is this news guy who gets a shot to actually anchor a news broadcast. And he panics, he starts sweating profusely. It's one of I swear to God, one of the most all-time classic movie scenes ever. It's absolutely amazing. Anyway, I think to this day, I think for all three, Albert Brooks, William Hurt, although Children of a Lesser God, you could make an argument for Children of a Lesser God, but William Hurt and Holly Hunter, you could make an argument that broadcast news might be the best film any of those three iconic Hollywood names, even though I froze on Albert's name. You can make an argument it's the best film any of them have done. Again, with William Hurt, you can make an argument for Children of a Lesser God. Holly Hunter's got some stuff. Albert Brooks got some other stuff. But honestly, broadcast news is brilliant. And it's how I mentioned that Albert Brooks thing. I remember, I can still watch that movie and howl at that, because I remember a lot of times I would bring in people who, you know, back when I was running different organizations, and we would audition people to come in, and they'd look great on paper and say, oh, I'm perfect for this. And then we'd get them on camera to do a camera test. And it just changed. It would completely change. Like once you actually get in front of a camera, it completely changes. And some people just aren't built for that sort of thing. But yeah, man, that one scene in Broadcast News, one of my all-time favorites. So thanks for bringing that up. If you have not seen Broadcast News, watch Broadcast News. It's an incredible movie. Hands of Stone writes, in your opinion, which Superman and Lois had the best chemistry on screen? Reeves and Kidder or Cavill and Adams? Well, look, I'm on record. I think Henry Cavill's the best Superman we've ever had. Now, granted, I'm watching it in today's context, and Cavill's Superman is a much better rendition of a context for today of a Superman. And Man of Steel is my all-time favorite Superman movie. But I think the chemistry between Kidder and Reeves was better. I do. I think that's one of the things in the original films that is better than the new films. And don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking the chemistry between Amy Adams and Henry Cavill. I'm not knocking that at all. But there was a sweetness, and I don't like using the word a purity, but I'll use it in this case. There was a sweetness and a purity to the chemistry between Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder that it's very difficult to recapture. Know what I'm saying? It's just a different animal. It was something really special. And honestly, one of the real strengths of that first Superman movie, even the second Superman movie. So while I prefer the Cavill Superman and the Cavill Superman film, I gotta say, I think the Reeve, Margot Kidder one is the better chemistry in my opinion. Kevin Kamaki just sends in a super chat. Thank you, Kevin. C. Stacks writes, is the DCEU Superman able to get back to status quo? As far as the public knows, Clark is dead and buried. How can you explain that away? Is this a problem? Not a problem at all. We've addressed this several times. It's come up on the show. How many times in how many thousands of movies and thousands of TV shows has a character been thought to be dead and then found out they weren't dead? It happens all the time. I mean, look, I'll just make up one right now. Make up a scenario off the top of my head. Okay, so during the battle in Metropolis, Clark got hit on the head by falling debris, knocked unconscious, found by some people, brought him to a shelter, but they didn't know who he was, because, I mean, he's a reporter, but no, he's not famous. Newspaper reporters are not known for their faces. And he wakes up, he had amnesia, and he found on his person something that had something to do with California. So he got on a bus, went to California, didn't understand who he was, didn't know who he was, and then 3 years later, he recovered from his amnesia, remembered he was Clark Kent, and came back to town, and everybody just thought he was lost in the conflict. Boom, there, I just made something up. That's a story they could make up to explain it. Again, we've seen thousands of movies and TV shows that have had a character presumed dead and then later found out, whether it's a season later or 3 years later or whatever, they're actually alive. It's a device that's been done a ton of times. Not going to be a problem. There's 1,000 different ways they could explain it. So I'm not worried about it. C-Stacks, I don't think you should be worried about it. They'll come up with something. It's an easy thing to do. Alex Pitt writes, thoughts on Mamma Mia 2? I loved it. I loved it too. Had a great time with it. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't even really going to, even though I really liked Mamma Mia 1, actually I loved Mamma Mia 1, but even though I did, I wasn't planning on going to see Mamma Mia 2, but Anne really wanted to see it. So okay, me and Anne go out to watch it. I got to tell you, I had a great time. Had a great time. And you know what? I tweeted about this, and I might have talked about it on my show the other day. One of the things that made the movie even better for me was we were sitting beside these two women who were out on a girls' night, clearly, watching Mamma Mia, and clearly stopped off at the AMC bar and maybe had one or two cocktails. And they were laughing, not being obnoxious, they were laughing and cheering and crying, and I'm telling you, and dancing. As the movie's going on and the musical numbers happen, these girls, these women beside us, were having the, not to quote, ABBA, they were having the time of their lives. I mean, they were having the time of their life sitting beside Anne and me watching this movie. And I got to tell you what, I'm watching this show, I'm watching this movie and sitting beside these girls. And I'm telling you, watching them completely enhanced my movie watching experience. It's part of what makes going to the movies so great. Having these people beside me that were having so much fun and having such a good time. It made an already really good viewing experience watching Mamma Mia 2 into a great movie-going experience. Into an absolutely great movie-going experience for me. So it added a lot. So yeah, I had a really good time with Mamma Mia 2. Jorge Souza writes, Movies Anywhere is run by Disney. Thanks. Irrelevant. I can give you a huge laundry list of things run by Disney that they've closed down. So that doesn't, look, again, I'm not saying they're going to close it down. I'm not saying anything bad about Movies Anywhere. All I'm saying, because we talked about on my show this morning, is that I have zero need to use Movies Anywhere. And if you use it and it works for you and you enjoy it, that is awesome. I'm not disparaging Movies Anywhere at all. I think that's great. I just explained on the show this morning that, number one, I have no need to use it because I have everything I need in the streaming service that I use. But secondly, if Disney ever decides to shutter the thing, or if, the rest of the owners decide to shutter the thing, then now you're stuck with your movie library dispersed across 5 different providers. And, I don't want to do that. So I'm perfectly happy with the way I am. But if you use it, that's great. Michael Ave Alodius writes, I'm sure I just butchered your name, Michael. All right, Guardians of the Galaxy cast wrote an open letter to rehire James Gunn. Yes, they did. I already put up a video about it, actually, this morning. If you go on my YouTube channel, look to a couple hours ago, I put up a video about it. It's a great statement, and it was signed. It is one unified statement put out by the cast, and it's signed by everybody. Chris Pratt, Zoe Saldana, Dave Bautista, Vin Diesel, Bradley Cooper, Michael Rooker, Jillian, I forget the name of the girl who plays Nebula, and she was just in Jumanji. Why am I forgetting her name? She was great. Palm signed it. Like everybody signed it. And it was a really good supportive statement, making mention of the fact that there is a movement to calling for James Gunn to be rehired. They say they're completely 100% Gunn. They're all going to work with him again in the future. Blah, 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 blah. It's a great statement. It's a very well thought out, not reactive, very thought out statement that they put out. And one of the things that I asked in the video that I made about this was, will this have any impact? Will this put Disney in an awkward situation? Look, I still believe there's a possibility here. Disney always intended to hire James Gunn back. And I talked about that a number of days ago. I believe that there is a possibility here that Disney sat down when this whole thing blew up and said, okay, here's our strategy. We are going to fire James Gunn right now. And then in a few weeks or in a month or two, we're going to say we've had, because remember, Disney knew all about the tweets long before they ever hired him. They knew about this. And they're going to go, we're going to say that we've had ongoing conversations with James. We feel comfortable with who he is as a person today, blah, blah. And we've decided on a trial basis, we've decided to bring James back into the family. I think there's a possibility that's been the plan all along. And the cast putting out this letter, seemingly in defiance of Disney, I think either supports that or at least puts Disney in a very awkward position. So it's going to be interesting to see what kind of effect this letter has. But I think it was a key letter that they did, and I'm glad they wrote it. But again, I put up a video about it. You can go check out that video I did on that a little bit earlier. Curtis Lopez writes, with all the backlash Disney is getting for firing Gunn and the cast of Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm thinking Disney might give in and hire him back. Well, as I was just talking about, Curtis, that is a theory I think I've had for a while. I do think it's possible that they hire him back. Alan Horn, who is the guy in charge when it comes to Disney movies, other than Bob Iger, nobody has more power than Alan Horn. Alan Horn is Kevin Feige's direct boss. Alan Horn is the guy that Kevin Feige answers to directly. Alan Horn made a very bad, ignorant statement, a disingenuous statement, when he came out and said, at the time of the firing, the statements of James Gunn are inconsistent with the things of Disney. Therefore, we have severed all business relationships with them. And at the time, I felt it was a very poor statement to make. Not that I blame Disney for removing him. That's their right, and I can understand why they did it. I wouldn't have done it, but I understand why they did. But that statement by Alan Horn was one of two things. It was either completely disingenuous, because I'm sorry, they knew about those tweets before they hired him. They were public. They were public. So they knew about it. So acting like you didn't know about it is disingenuous and I think kind of scummy. The other option is that if by some miracle they didn't know about those tweets, then that makes them the most incompetent organization in the world. Because I tell you what, even I, and I mentioned this in a video I did a number of days ago, even I, who ran a very small operation, very tiny operation, when I was seriously considering bringing somebody on, like I wouldn't go through social media histories for everybody who applied for a gig with us, but when it came down to the last few people that we were really considering, you're damn right, I looked into social media history to see if there were any fires I had to put out. And, you know, I came across one situation once where it's like, okay, I'm just inviting trouble if I work with this person. There was another person once that I did end up hiring that I did have to sit down with and have a conversation with, though, before hiring, saying, hey, can you clarify some things for me? You know, I noticed on your social media, you once posted this and this. Talk through this with me. Let me know where you're at today. What was behind that? You know, let me understand the situation more. And we had a very frank and good conversation, and I ended up bringing them on board because I felt comfortable with where they're at. If I can do that, some fucking idiot nobody from up north who's running some tiny little YouTube operation, if I'm smart enough to do that, you'd have to be the most buffoon-laden, idiotic, incompetent company in the galaxy to not have understood James Gunn, who had all these tweets that were very public, and you never knew about them, then you're completely incompetent at your job. Then you're completely a loser. You're a complete incompetent loser at your job. And since we know Alan Horn and the folks at Disney are not complete incompetent losers at their job, that leaves us with only one option, that Alan Horn was being completely disingenuous when he made that statement. It's not a good look, but it's either that or he's a completely incompetent buffoon. So he's either being dishonest or he's an incompetent buffoon. Take your pick. There's no third option here. There's no third option. It's one or the other, lying or incompetent. Only two options on the table. There is no third option. And look, as somebody, and I'm going off on this too long, but as somebody who acknowledges, I don't fault Disney for taking the step they took in removing James Gunn. Again, it's not what I would have done, but I can understand why they may have felt the need to do it. The only part of all of this that I am outright upset about is that Alan Horn statement. That is the only part of all this that upsets me, because I am a fan of Disney. I am a fan of Alan Horn. Huge fan of Bob Iger. I'm a big fan of the company. And I really, maybe I'm being a little bit too harsh, but when I'm a fan of somebody, I hold them a little bit to a higher standard than I do for people I'm not a fan of, to be honest. And that statement by Alan Horn, as a fan, that he was addressing, that upset me. Because you're either bold-faced lying or you just revealed yourself to be an incompetent buffoon. No third option. And that's the part that upset me. So it will be interesting to see what happens here. It will be interesting to see what happens here. Okay, Luke Woodward writes, I've never seen a Mission Impossible movie before. Is it okay to see the new movie without having seen any of the previous ones? You know what? Yes, you can. Absolutely. Do you get a little bit more of the nuance? It's like a lot of other things. Do you get more of the nuance of what's going on in the movies if you have watched a couple of the other ones? Yes. But honestly, they do such a good job of laying out the basic structure of what's happening that if you've never seen another Mission Impossible film before, and you should, if nothing else, you should just go watch Ghost Protocol. To me, Ghost Protocol is still the best of the franchise, but Ghost Protocol, Rogue Nation, just watch the last couple. But even if you don't, believe me, you can walk in and watch Fallout, no problem. You won't be lost at all, no worries whatsoever, Luke. Curtis follows up. Don't judge me, but Fuller House and the original Full House are guilty pleasures for me. Me and my cousin actually went to a taping of Fuller House. That's hilarious. Hey, no judgment there. Look, I liked Full House as much. I think a lot of people love Full House. I tried to watch Fuller House. I got through one episode. I couldn't stomach it. I just could not stomach it. That's fine. That's me. Entertainment's subjective. Who cares? Didn't work for me. That doesn't mean it's not supposed to work for you. And if it worked for you, that's great. And I think if you had a chance, if you went to an actual taping of Fuller House, I think that's great too. I think being at live tapings of shows is a kick. I've been to a live taping of a couple of shows. It's actually a big kick. A lot of sitting around and waiting, but it's actually a lot of fun too. So I think it's great. Nothing wrong with that, Curtis. Curtis follows it up with, I don't think Movies Anywhere is worth it. You can't buy any movies from Paramount or Lionsgate in your collection. I don't know that that's true, Curtis. Because my understanding is you can buy, you can buy a movie from, maybe I'm wrong about this, but my understanding is with Movies Anywhere, you're actually getting your movies from other streaming services. They're just all collected there and you can watch them all in one spot. And with Google Play, which is one of the connected services, I can watch any Paramount or Lionsgate movie. So again, I don't know enough about the situation, but I don't think that's true. I think if you're using Movies Anywhere, you can watch movies from Paramount and Lionsgate via proxy from one of the other streaming services. Again, though, I'm no expert. I'm no expert on it. I might be wrong and you might be right, but I would say double check that. Rodney Hurd writes, was the mustache worth it in MI Fallout? Well, for Paramount it was. You know, that's the funny thing here. With the whole thing between Paramount and Warner Brothers, of course, the big mustache thing. Henry Cavill was shooting Mission Impossible when they wanted to do reshoots for Justice League. However, in the contract Henry Cavill had with Paramount, he could not shave that mustache. They wanted that character to have that mustache. And they would not let him shave it to go back and shoot the scenes for Justice League. And then all the fiasco happened where they had to digitally remove the mustache, blah, 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 blah. Was it worth it? For Paramount, it was. And you know what? At the time, I was like, tell me, look, Paramount has no obligation. Paramount's responsibility is to do what's best for Paramount's movies. That is Paramount's responsibility. Paramount has no responsibility to do anything to help a Warner Brothers movie. Hey, look, we want this character to have a mustache. They knew it when they signed up to do this movie. That's why we put it in the contract. And we think it looks more authentic in a movie where Tom Cruise is actually flying the helicopters and jumping out of the airplanes and jumping across buildings. Making sure it's authentic is important to us. We feel it looks more authentic for Henry Cavill to have his real mustache. That's what's best for our movie. Hey, we're sorry if that interferes with you shooting reshoots on your movie, but that's your problem. You deal with it. And Paramount stuck to their guns. And you know what? Good for them. It's not Paramount, nor has it ever been Paramount's job to do what's good for a Warner Brothers movie. And I've heard a lot of people say, well, they could have just put on a fake mustache on him. Why didn't they just put on a fake mustache? Because they didn't want to. Simple. They didn't want to. And they're within their rights completely to do that. It's not Paramount's job to look after Warner Brothers movies. It's Paramount's job to do what's good for their movies. And that's what they did. And it's unfortunate that it put Warner Brothers in the spot that they were in for their reshoots. But hey, c'est la vie, is what it is. And they had to work around it. Nathan Oswald writes, what would be a respectable Rotten Tomatoes score for Halloween? I think what would be a respectable score for any movie. high 60s, low 70s. I think if Halloween comes out and get high 60s, low 70s, it's respectable. If Halloween comes out, gets a 68, respectable score. I think it's the same for any movie. You know, you don't want to be 50-50, where roughly half the critics like it, half of it don't. You don't want to be there. Respectable, mid to high 60s, so I'd say 65 or higher. And you're in a respectable range. I think if they can do that, that would be a respectable score. Let's see. SSJR Goku Black writes, with the First Order now in control of the galaxy, should J.J. Abrams and John Williams bring back the Imperial March in its full glory for Episode 9? Actually, no. Because, don't get me wrong, to me, the Imperial March is the greatest piece of music ever composed in any movie in history, period, end sentence. Do not pass go, do not collect $100. Imperial March is it. Greatest music thing ever put to any movie ever. That being said, it would be inconsistent for them to bring it back. Remember, the First Order isn't trying to reestablish the Empire. They look at the Empire as something that failed. They're trying to build something better than the Empire. And as such, I don't think they would reinstitute the old national anthem of the Galactic Empire. I think they would do something different. So while I love the Imperial March to death, and I admit I would geek out a bit if they played it in the movie, it seems to me like that would be inconsistent with what they've told us about the First Order. So as much as it pains me to say it, I don't think they should bring the Imperial March back. And maybe you've got some good reasons for thinking that they should, and I'm open to hearing them, but as much as it pains me to say it, I think it would probably be the smart move to not bring it back. Oh, it hurts to say that. But anyway, that's just what I'm thinking right now. I could have my mind changed. Darth Impact writes, let's see. Okay, the off chance your 5% is right and Luke is alive, who has the epic final battle with Kylo, him or Rey? Oh, I think it's got to be Rey. Even if, in the unlikely 5% chance that Luke is actually physically alive, and I do believe there's a 5% chance, which means there's a 95% chance that he is not. Even if that's the case, this whole new trilogy has been building up the confrontation between Rey and Kylo. They are your Luke and Vader of this new franchise. Therefore, even if Luke is still alive, your final confrontation, I believe, has to be Rey and Kylo. That's where the final confrontation has to happen. Now, don't get me wrong. If Luke's still alive, you gotta have him do some major badassery with his lightsaber in this. To have him slice out and just slaughter a 5,000 Legion troop army of stormtroopers. Whatever. Give him his due. But I actually think it would need to come down to Rey and Kylo. That's just narratively where this whole thing has been heading. So I think you got to resist the urge to just do the fan service and stay true to the narrative direction you've been going, which is Kylo v. Rey. And have one true final epic battle between the two of them. And I think that's where you got to go. Now, don't get me wrong. I ain't going to complain if it's Luke v. Kylo. I won't complain. But I think the smart thing and the right thing to do here is probably have it be Rey v. Kylo. But who knows? Look, again, the point is moot because there's a 95% chance Luke is just actually dead and JJ doesn't bring him back. I mean, we know he's going to be in the movie, but not physically back. Not physically alive back. So we're going to have to wait and see, I guess. All right. Rodney Hurd writes, hey, John, I have something important to tell you, but not over the super chat. Meet me at Dead Man's Cliff at midnight. Okay, so what Rodney is referring to here is an illustration made. Whenever the issue comes up of things that bother me in movies, like cliches they use in movies that bother me, one of the worst cliches ever, and I've seen so many TV shows and so many movies use this cliche, it's mind-boggling. But it's the, can't give important message now, I'll tell you later. You know that person's going to die, right? So we all have seen it 1,000 times. The hero's at dinner and gets a phone call from a mysterious doctor who says, "Hero Bob, yes, Dr. So-and-so? I've just found out some terrible truth that I must share with you." "Oh my goodness, Dr. So-and-so, what is this terrible truth I must know?" "No, not over the phone." First of all, why the hell not over the phone? "No, not over the phone. Meet me at midnight on Death Peak Ridge." "Okay, Dr. So-and-so, I'll be there at midnight." Well, you know what's going to happen. Dr. So-and-so is going to show up at Death Peak Ridge at midnight, and Hero Bob is going to be running 1 minute late, and somebody's going to get there before Hero Bob and push Dr. So-and-so off the cliff, and Hero Bob... But we've seen that play out 1,000 times. "Hey, Julia." "Yes, Rob?" "I have something to tell you." "What is it, Rob?" "Something that's going to change your life." "Okay, I get it. What is it, Rob?" "Not now. Let me tell you later." And then later, Rob's going to be hit by a car. I mean, it's just played out 1,000 times. That, to me, is the most lazy, cheap, and way overused cliche in movie history, and we've seen it 1,000 times. Murray Reich writes, "Does somebody need to see all 5 missions..." We just had this question from a different person, though. Murray writes, "Does somebody need to see all 5 Mission Impossible films before seeing the new one, or can they come in clean?" Again, I believe one of the really good things, and again, Fallout is not my favorite of the Mission Impossible series, but it's up there, and it's really good. And one of the best things about it is the fact that it's structured in such a way that I believe you can know nothing about the Mission Impossible franchise, and I believe you can just go in clean and watch it, and I think you'll be perfectly fine. Again, if you have seen previous movies, you'll appreciate some of the nuance more. But generally speaking, nope. I think you can walk in and watch this film completely cold. And I think you'll be perfectly fine. It'll have you caught up to speed, and you'll be fine with it. Rodney Hurd writes, "Rewatched Ready Player One yesterday and was wondering, what would your experience in the Oasis be, and what stuff would you equip for yourself?" Oh, gosh, I mean, I don't know, Rodney. That's... if I could go into the Oasis, I would probably... I don't know. I mean, ultimately, the Oasis is a game. So, man, I don't know. I honestly don't know. That's something I can't just answer off the top of my head. I do know I love the movie. I loved Ready Player One. It's no longer in my top 5 films of the year, but it's still in my top 10 films of the year so far. I thought it was brilliantly put together. I thought it was just a magnificent movie. Great time with it. But what would I do in the Oasis? I don't know. Not something I can answer off the top of my head. Something I'd have to give some serious thought to that I can't obviously do right now. But thanks for the question, Rodney. Luna Comics writes, "Another fun fact about me. My cousin took her kids to see it while they were under the age of 8. I'm not joking." I have no idea what we're talking about, Luna. Sorry about that. I have no idea what we're talking about. Zach Keel writes, "Any chance Aquaman will change its release date?" Well, I still think there is. I still think there's a chance. I think it's unlikely. I thought, I said, like the Luke situation, I thought there was a 5% chance that at Comic-Con they announce a release date change. It didn't happen. I think if you were going to change the release date, I think Comic-Con is the day they're going to do it. I think at Comic-Con is when they would have done it. Now, I don't think it's impossible they change release dates still. I would just say my 5% chance has gone down to a 2% chance. Now, it should be mentioned here that another Warner Brothers film, Mowgli, was set to release in October. Guess what? Warner Brothers just dumped Mowgli on Netflix. They just brushed away Mowgli over to Netflix. So suddenly now Warner Brothers has a release date opening in October. Again, I think it's less likely now than it was before Comic-Con, but still possible. I'd still give it a 2% chance, but extremely unlikely. But yes, is there any chance, Zach, the way you ask, any chance Aquaman will change its release date? Yeah, I'll say there's still a chance, not likely. And I think it's a slimmer chance now than before Comic-Con, because I thought Comic-Con would have been the time to announce it. But a chance? Yeah, I still think there's a chance they change dates, but I'm not holding my breath for it. Rodney writes, sorry to hear about Schnepp. Luke Skywalker said it best. No one is ever really gone. Yeah, it's... I think still a lot of people, all of us, are still trying to process the loss of Schnepp. And, you know, it's funny because I was talking to Dennis Zen the other day. And I still don't think it's hit me. I'll be honest with you. I still don't think it's really hit me. Now, granted, I haven't hung out with John a lot in the last year. Actually, one of my... I'm not going to get emotional. One of my biggest regrets is that, you know, when I left my last job, Schnepp and I stayed in touch pretty regularly for the first couple of weeks. And then, you know, I touched base with him like a week later. Then I touched base with him like once a month later. And then, you know, a month becomes 6 months and 6 months becomes a year. And I realized I had not really kept in touch. And it's that's been a very tangible thing that I've been dealing with. And I felt really bad about. But it's funny because, like I said, talking to Dennis a couple days ago, and one of the things I said to Dennis is, I still don't think I've processed it. Like, I know Schnepp's gone. I know he's gone. But it hasn't made its way down here. Does that make any sense? Do you know what I'm saying? I think there's a part of me that still hasn't processed that this is a fact. You know what I mean? And I don't think it's really hit me yet. I don't think it's really hit me yet. And maybe one of the things that's contributed to that is the fact that, you know, I knew, there's a number of us who knew the real extent of the brain damage that Schnepp suffered as a result of a stroke many, many days. And we knew what the outcome was going to be. Like, we knew many days before they publicly announced that Schnepp had passed away. So there were a number of us who already knew that that was coming. And so you'd think that would have been more prepared, but I don't know. Maybe it had the opposite effect on me. Maybe it had the effect on me that it didn't allow me to really process it. So I don't know. It's been very odd for me. But it has been amazing to see the influence that the big guy had on so many people. Because you're seeing this outpouring of love and support and well-wish messages. You really get a sense of just how influential he was and what a difference he made for a lot of people and how he influenced a lot of people. And it's amazing to see. It's absolutely amazing to see. Let's see. Luna Comics writes, hey, John, how was Feast of Fiction? You know what? I still haven't watched any of the episodes, but I went to the YouTube channel. So Feast of Fiction, this thing does food from the movies, right? And I remember the first thing I found when I went searching for it was the Ratatouille. But I still haven't had a chance to watch it. So I found it, and I thought, okay, now I know where it is. I'm going to watch this later. I never actually had a chance to watch it, but I am planning on watching it because to me it looks fascinating. It really does. Rodney follows up, did you ever play any Mortal Kombat? Oh, I did. I played a lot of Mortal Kombat. If so, who was your go-to guy? Scorpion was the main man for me. Liu Kang was the one I went with the most, and Johnny Cage. Those are the guys I played the most. Those are the stereotypical ones. They were basically your Ryu and Ken of Mortal Kombat, but those are the two characters that were my defaults to go to. And Raiden. I played a lot of Raiden as well. Chris Miner writes, hey, John, been seeing this debate in sports, especially in the NBA, after the DeRozan-Kawhi Leonard trade. To you, is loyalty important to a team? No. No. And it shouldn't be. It should not be. Teams trade players all the time. Players move on to other teams in free agency all the time. Well, what about loyalty? There is no, there shouldn't be any such thing as loyalty. You have a contract with a team, and a team has a contract with a player. It's understood that we're going to pay you millions of dollars so you come and play your best for us. That is the only loyalty a team owes to a player, to pay them that money And that is the only loyalty a player owes to a team. That while you're paying me that money, I owe you giving you my best effort every day. That's it. There is no other loyalty beyond that, nor should there be. This is the dude's work. This is the dude's business. This is the team's business. They need to do what is best for their business. In the case of Toronto, they felt what was best for their business was to trade away DeRozan and to get in Kawhi Leonard. So that's what they did. There is no more, it's no more an extent of that. This whole notion of loyalty, this is business. The only loyalty that a team owes to a player is to pay them their paycheck that they're owed. The only loyalty a player owes to the team is, hey, while you're paying me that paycheck, I'm going to give you my best effort. That is the extent that loyalty is owed. I believe in sports. The rest is just doing what is best for the team or for the player to do what is best for their career. Beyond the loyalty owed of giving your best effort and to pay them their paycheck. After that, to me, no, I don't believe loyalty should be a consideration at all. It's a business. It's totally a business. Trevor Johnson. Oops, and we had the big jump. So give me a second here. Okay, here we are. Trevor Johnson writes, and hey guys, just so you know, we're running out of time, so I don't think I'm going to be able to get to all the questions that are still pending. So if you have not sent in a question yet, probably shouldn't. Or send it on in if you're okay with your question being carried over to a companion video. That's cool too. If you want to send in a question now, just understand if you send in a question from now to the end of the show, it's probably going to have to wait till the companion video. Okay, Trevor Johnson writes, any excitement for the next Terminator film? Having Miller direct is cool, but I swear if there's time travel, I'm going to be punching out of the franchise. Well, I don't know. I don't mind time travel in the Terminator franchise. I am over how many TV shows and movies use time travel. To me, it's a cheap out. It's a cop-out. But the Terminator franchise is built on time travel. I mean, that's the whole concept of the Terminator franchise is built around time travel. And possible alternate realities and all that kind of stuff. That's what Terminator is built on. So I'll be honest with you, while I roll my eyes when I ever hear of an existing franchise wanting to incorporate time travel, I roll my eyes. For Terminator, not so much, because again, that is one of the, the foundational cornerstones of what the Terminator franchise is. It's all built around the notion of time travel. So I don't mind it at all. I would say my excitement level for Terminator right now is modest. I have a modest amount of excitement for it. Not that I'm not looking forward to it or anything like that, but I'm not super excited either. Again, much like Alita Battle Angel, it's not James Cameron doing it. And any belief that James Cameron is heavily involved in it is pure fantasy. He's working on 4 Avatar films that he's producing, writing, and directing. He's not heavily involved in either, no matter what he says or anybody else says. He is not heavily involved in either Alita Battle Angel or Terminator. Though, Miller is a really good director. We'll have to see. Terminator has just disappointed us all too many times for me to get too wrapped up or too excited about it. But we're going to have to wait and see. Koba writes, will Rowling tell other Wizarding World stories? I want a Hogwarts Founders movie. I don't know. I mean, a lot of people thought that she was done with the Wizarding World, period, when Harry Potter finished, right? But then she remembered, wow, you know what's fun? Being the richest woman in the world other than the Queen. That's pretty fun. I like having dump trucks full of Spanish gold being backed up to my house every single day and dumped on my front lawn. That's fun. And so we got, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. And Warner Brothers began backing up the dump trucks of Spanish gold again and dumping them on our lawns to do these movies. Look, nothing is set in stone. But yeah, I think we'll see more. What I want, though, is much like Star Wars. I don't want them to keep going backwards and doing prequels. Move it forward. Tell it in today's time, modern age. Now, 10 years after the events of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. 10 years later. Pick it up from there. Doesn't even have to have Harry Potter. Tell it with other characters. The new class. Make it like Saved by the Bell, the new class. Hogwarts, the new class. Have a new class at Hogwarts. Follow them. Doesn't have to be little kids. Say it's the new graduating class of Hogwarts this year. And what's new adventures, whatever. I tell most stories moving forward. I'm done. I just, oh good. More going backwards. Yay. I don't know. I mean, it's fine because I like Fantastic Beasts. I do. And Fantastic Beasts 2 looks good. So I'm looking forward to it. It's just, I would rather see stories, much like in Star Wars, I would rather see stories that are moving forward rather than keep going backwards. But that's just me. That's just me. Murray Reich writes, when can we expect Daredevil Season 3 or Punisher Season 2? The only great Marvel Netflix right now, in my opinion. Yeah, I'm going to agree with you on that. Daredevil and Punisher are probably the only great Netflix stuff right now. There was just, I read a story like yesterday that like one of the producers of Daredevil was talking, hey, they've I believe both Daredevil and maybe even Punisher might both already be in production. They're already making them. But as of now, still no announced date. There is a rumor that Daredevil Season 3 could come out as early as late 2018. So it could be within the next 5 months. Again, though, there's no official word on that. But it's not, even if it's not too far off because the show's already in production. Punisher 2, bigger question mark on that. Could be mid-2019, could be late 2019, don't know. What I do know is this. Netflix needs a great season out of their Marvel shows because the last number have been dropped. I did not like Luke Cage Season 2 at all. I did not like Jessica Jones Season 2 at all. I thought Defenders was okay. Iron Fist was a hot steaming pile of garbage. So there's 4 seasons right there where one of them was okay. One of them was okay. The rest, not so much. Now, again, that's just my opinion. You may have liked a couple more of those, and that's great if you do. But from my perspective, only one out of the last 4 was even okay. They need a big one again. So if they got to take their time with Daredevil, fine. If they got to take their time with Punisher, fine. We haven't had a great season of Netflix since Punisher. So we need a good one. Again, Daredevil rumors could come out before the end of the year. If not, I'm sure it'll be shortly thereafter. Punisher right now is a bigger question mark. It's Mo writes, hey John, do you know if DC will have 2 sub-companies for that of DC shared and standalone films? Thanks. Well, no, I don't think they're going to be sub-companies at all. I don't think either are going to be sub-companies. They might have different banners on them. Right now, it seems like the new popular phrase for them is Worlds of DC. Like they're no longer using the DCEU motif. They're calling it Worlds of DC or the DC Worlds or whatever it was. I can't remember specifically. That to me sounds like something you could incorporate. Your shared cinematic ongoing narrative and your one-shot standalone movies could all fall with under the Worlds of DC. Is that, by the way, I got to look that up. Give me a second here. Is it Worlds of DC? Worlds of DC. Yes, it's Worlds of DC. So a banner like Worlds of DC sounds like something you can incorporate all under one banner, the ongoing shared universe narrative continuity, and one-shot standalones could all fall under there. So I don't think they're forming sub-companies at all. I think they're just going to run them like that, and I think that's the way they're going to do them. Now, that could evolve out into something else, or maybe Walter Hamada, the guy in charge, has a different idea, and he just hasn't revealed it yet. We'll find out soon enough. Okay, let's keep going here. Murray Reich writes, how do you take unfinished footage from Leia's and adapt it to, let's say, conversing with Lando? How does the whole thing work? I mean, it's impossible to say when we don't know what the footage is. It's impossible to say. Obviously, I don't think you can have Leia and Lando and Rey sitting down at the same table having a conversation. That obviously doesn't work. It'll probably be communiques. It'll probably be like transmissions and messages that way when she's talking to other people, probably. But again, without seeing the footage, the unused Leia footage from Episode 7, we just don't know. Like, look, if they've got unused footage of Leia sitting at a conference table sitting down and having a conversation with somebody that's out of shot, and we've got lots of up close shots of her and single shots of her doing that, then theoretically you could reconstruct that set, have two other characters at it, and build the dialogue around what her dialogue is. You could do that. But again, it's impossible to say when we don't know what that footage is. So the answer to that question completely relies on what the nature of the footage is that they have. So again, off the top of my head, the easiest way to do it is to have her speaking via transmissions with people, because that's the easiest way to do it. But if they have footage with her in certain scenarios that you could translate over well, then that's the way you do it too. But again, until we know what that footage is, it's wild speculation with no ends to the possibilities. So it's hard to answer that without knowing what that footage is. Celerity 9 writes, hey John, what pops did you get from San Diego Comic-Con? None. I bought no pops at San Diego Comic-Con. The only thing I bought, which I'm very happy with, and I haven't even taken them out of their box yet, are these, they're about this big, these big figures of the Coon and Mysterion from Fractured But Whole, the South Park Fractured But Whole. And I've got a Coon. Where is he? Do I have him right behind me? He's on my shelf here somewhere. Where's Coon? Where's the Coon? Sorry, now this is going to bug me. Where's Coon? This is bad television, guys. So, okay, Coon is right. There he is. There he is right there. Okay, so you can see I've got a figure of the Coon, but that's just a pop. I bought these big figures of them. I might actually make a little bit of an unboxing, not a true unboxing video, but I might do a little video when I finally open them and take them out of their boxes, because I'm so excited about getting these things, but those are the only two things I actually got from Comic-Con. Okay, here, what's next? Michael the Bicycle writes, MoviePass couldn't afford to pay for my Won't You Be My Neighbor ticket yesterday. Still saw it, and the kid in the wheelchair had me in tears. Oh my gosh, yeah. How powerful was that scene? I mean, this won't mean anything to the rest of you who didn't see Won't You Be My Neighbor, which is one of the best films of the year. But that scene with the kid in the wheelchair, and then in the credits showing him later in life as an adult. Oh my God. Oh my God, so powerful. And yeah, the MoviePass drama. We talked about it again on the John Campea show again this morning. Their stock has just gone right to the toilet. Right to the toilet. There is no hope for this company. And I mentioned on my show today that my prediction had been that they will be shut down before the end of 2018. I've adjusted that prediction now to saying I believe they will be shut down before the end of October. MoviePass will cease operations, I believe, before the end of October. It's not long for this world, so if you've got a card, use it while you can, unless you're getting tired of paying those $6 surcharges for every movie you want to see. Der Wunderbar writes, the Wolf Out sequence in American Werewolf in London is the best I have ever seen. What about you, John? Oh, it is one of the most terrifying. American Werewolf in London, not to be confused with American Werewolf in Paris. It's very, very bad follow-up film that happened 15 years after the original. But the original American Werewolf in London, to this day, is my all-time favorite horror movie. All-time favorite horror movie. And one of the reasons is the wolf transformation scene. Especially for the era that it's made in, I've never seen, and a lot of shows have different wolf transformation scenes. Lots of them. It's a motif, basically. But the way they did it in American Werewolf in London, to this day, I think is the most gruesome, horrifying transformation sequences for a werewolf ever. I've never seen it topped. And you're talking about 1980s filmmaking technology when they did it. To this day, the best I've ever seen done. I don't know how anything is ever going to catch it. I'll be honest, I don't know how any movie is ever going to catch it in that regard. All right, guys, we've gone over an hour now. I'm going to take 2 more questions, then we're going to wrap it up today. Edgar Navarro writes, hey, John, I know I'm in the minority here when I say I love the Grown Ups series. Do you think we'll see a 3rd one? Hope we do. Well, you are in the minority, Edgar, but hey, man, that's the beauty of the subjectivity of movies. Just because a lot of people find them to be awful, admittedly myself included, I think they're total trash, that doesn't mean everybody's going to find them awful. Just because what they didn't work for me doesn't mean it won't work for you. There's lots of millions of little subtle things in movies that may appeal to you as an individual when it doesn't appeal to other people. And if you like those movies, that's awesome. I celebrate that. That's great. The likelihood of a third one, I think, is pretty low. But you never know. I mean, they seem to just be cranking out such crap with Adam Sandler these days. It's impossible to say it's impossible, you know? So it's possible. You could see it. It might happen. I just, at this point, though, I don't think it's likely, so I wouldn't hold my breath. And the final question we're going to take today here comes from Michael the Bicycle, who writes, thoughts on Ant-Man and the Wasp's worldwide box office. Well, I mean, the worldwide box office is tough to say because there's still some major markets it hasn't opened in. Let's see. Like, for instance, we just had people, the Wasp box. We still had a bunch of people write to us today about how their country still doesn't have it. Remember, a lot of the international box offices pushed it off. Some of the major box office markets pushed it off because of the World Cup going on. And it's opening here pretty soon right now. So right now it's sitting at about $400 million, which is profitable. I mean, the movie's profitable. Ant-Man and the Wasp is easily the most obscure character they've ever done in film. The first one made in the $500 million range. Let me just double check that. The first Ant-Man made in the $500 million area. Yeah, $519 million. I still think Ant-Man and the Wasp can catch and pass that. I do. Once the once it really opens up to the rest of its international markets, it could catch it, but maybe it won't. Regardless, it's Ant-Man. Nobody expected box office records. Although it should be pointed out, it's already made more than Solo. Ant-Man and the Wasp has made more than Solo. At half the price, by the way. It's already made more than Solo at half the price that Solo was made for. So at $400 million, this is a movie that's already profitable. Now it's just adding to its profitability. So, yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I thought it would come in close to $6. I thought it would come in close to $600 million when it was all said and done. Doesn't look like that's likely at this point. But I still think it can pass the original Ant-Man. But even if it doesn't at this point, it's profitable. That's all you can ask. And it's an Ant-Man movie. So, I mean, what are you going to do? So, I think where it's at right now, understanding that there's still some major markets this film hasn't opened up in, I think it's done perfectly fine. I think it's done perfectly fine. All right, guys, that will do it for today's question. Now, there's still a bunch of questions that I didn't get around to. Don't you worry, guys. I'm going to take all the unused questions from Michael Solarix all the way down. I'm going to copy those questions over, and these questions will be used in an upcoming companion video. Of course, I do companion videos every day or every other day, something like that. So you're going to see your question answered in the next couple of days at least. So do not worry. Those questions will get answered. All right, guys, that will do it for today's installment of Open Mic. Thank you so much for being here. I said this morning during the show. As I'm talking, I can feel the swelling in my upper lip and in the roof of my mouth getting bigger and bigger as I'm talking. It's not comfortable, but I was able to make it through. So that's big progress. Thank you guys for being here so much. I really appreciate it. My name's John Campea, and until our next video, bye-bye.